Welcome to the American Roadrunner Podcast.
Yep. Glad y'all could join us here today again on this, the American Roadrunner Podcast. Here we share stories from the road on our two-wheeled motorcycle machines. All tales of spills, thrills, and chills. Good, bad, and ugly from the open road. I'm your host, Bob Marshall, fellow wrencher, rider, racer, and author of the book entitled American Roadrunner.
And I'm the co-host, Brian Phillips, and here for the ride.
Amen, brother.
You can find us in a few places. You can email us at americanroadrunnerthebook@gmail.com. All one word, American Roadrunner the Book. Also on Instagram, American Roadrunner. Facebook at American Roadrunner the Book. We also have some exciting news coming up from Ride 1K in a Day. If you don't know what that is, please stay tuned and you will be happy to find out.
Oh, yeah. Other good, exciting stuff. I got to tell you, we did say American Roadrunner a lot in the beginning. Thank you for running through that, Brian. Just in case anybody didn't hear, the podcast is American Roadrunner. Three words.
I want it to be something like those daytime TV shows for insurance or lawyers or whatever, stuff like that, where the people say the phone number like 10 times.
Again, yeah.
Cars for kids, you know.
Yeah. Well, I don't watch commercials.
Yeah, I
usually.
try not to because then they get stuck in your head just like that.
And on this episode, we're very excited to be doing a phone interview with one Mr. Jer Jack from Durango, Colorado. Jer's a fellow Stampeder. He has raced the Stampede several times with myself. He is a competitor in all things wrenching, riding, and racing, and we're very excited to hear from him. I think our topic today will have to do with motorcycle camping and all the good things that come with it.
You know what? For those of you who are just tuning in, maybe for the first time, you might be asking, who is this motorcycle podcast for anyways?
That's a darn good question. The answer is, it's for everybody. The trick to anything motorcycles is to understand we did not come home from the hospital on motorcycles, unfortunately. So in our society, there is a small lack of education when it comes to things on two wheels. For all those interested, this is a podcast for you.
Yeah, and you know, if I could follow up, if you ride already, it might even sound, kind of stupid, some of these things that I myself am asking. I am the layman here. I'm the person who knows almost nothing about motorcycles. So I'm here to ask the questions that the person who's never ridden would ask.
Well, that's what makes you so cool, though, Brian. I've ridden motorcycles a really long time, and everyone will remind you, I'm not very cool sometimes.
I think the last time I rode anything with two wheels was my BMX, and that was when I had my midlife crisis probably about 6 years ago. I went and bought one, and I was just like, yeah, because I loved this movie called Rad, which was all about BMX
Oh,
racing.
don't get me started. I'm the biggest Rad fan. Okay, I'm the second biggest Rad fan you'll ever meet. No, I just took a bike ride today with my little dude. We cruised on down to the park in the old dump and went riding all through there. It was pretty exciting, although I got to tell you, my legs hurt. But I've got a nice 24-inch BMX bike in the back. I have a good time with it. I've got a few cruisers and stuff too. So no, I ride bicycles as I can, but I'm not as cool as most people when it comes to those guys like who are pedaling and wearing the spandex and freaking out in traffic, like breaking the law and running lights. Like those are the dirty bikers. Those guys are way too cool for me.
So, if you don't like the Motorcycle 101, please do give us a listen. You might learn something you don't know. But mainly, we're reaching out to anybody who is an adventurer, looking for an outlet, someone who's got passion and wants to ride. You may be interested in riding a motorcycle, but you've never done it yourself. You don't know who to ask, and sometimes it's kind of scary to ask the big burly guy with the motorcycle, hey, how do you do this? How do you get a motorcycle and ride it? And it's good that we have Bob, the big burly biker, right here.
I don't mind answering questions.
Well, I got lots of questions, and every answer you give me, I will have 2 more questions.
Perfect. And now, next, we're going to have a nice phone conversation with Mr. Jer Jack.
All right, I look forward to this.
Me too.
You know what? Tell me a little bit about this guy.
Well, I'll tell you, one hell of a stampeder, one hell of a wrencher, just builds amazing machines.
What is the Stampede? What is a Stampeder?
Ah, yes, the Stampeder. Fellow competitor in that which is the madness, mayhem, and craziness known as cross-country chopper racing, which is kind of what my book is centered around, me racing this cross-country chopper race. The trick to cross-country chopper racing is you can't give a crap about much. You may have to leave your machine on the side of the road. You may have to lower your moral state enough to get through everything you need to get through. The Stampede has a few basic rules. We'll get into that some other time, but basically it's a good old cross-country chopper race, and the first one there wins. So last time I did it, I came in 9th out of 60 guys and finished in less than 2.5 days. So
You kept on calling it chopper. Now, I've heard that term thrown around in the motorcycle community, but I don't know exactly what that is. I know a motorcycle's got 2 wheels, but I hear chopper. What is the difference between a motorcycle and a chopper?
Well, I think chop is it's just the style of bike, and the last 10, 15 years it's really moved around. But the idea used to be how much can you chop off of a stock scoot to make it as fast as possible, and that includes rear shocks. So you end up with a rigid frame. And back in the day, a lot of the motorcycles did not have rear shocks. I mean, if you had front shocks, why would you need rear shocks? But eventually they figured it out. So these days, any motorcycle that's chopped, it's missing rear shocks. It is completely stripped down, speedometers, any of the extras, everything but a coffee cup holder, a cigarette lighter, and a phone port charging space is legit.
So basically, stripping it down, not to streamline it, but to make it lighter.
Yeah, make it lighter, faster.
Okay. I got it.
Doing more of its thing. So sometimes we take these home-built, rebuilt scoots that we put together and race them cross-country. That is the madness known as the Stampede.
Very cool. You learn something new every day. I'm done learning for today. So that's it. Don't
Let's
tell
get
me
Jer on the
anything else.
phone.
Yeah, let's hear from the guy.
Jer, how the hell are you, brother?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I hear there's some white shit up there where you live.
Yeah, it snowed even a little bit this evening.
Really?
Got like 2 inches on my way home. Yeah.
And what exactly do you do with all that snow?
I just keep shoveling it up higher and higher.
Yeah.
Like my yard, it's like 4 feet high in my yard, so I shovel it out of the driveway, and it just keeps, or I snowball it, depending on how much I get.
You got a snowblowing machine?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
You got to like restart it every year, get it going, like rebuild it like
Dude,
an old chop?
I just bought a new carburetor for it on Amazon.
No
actually.
way. That's bitching.
I cleaned it once and it worked for a while, and then I was like, you don't have to do this crap anymore. We're
Right.
living in the golden age, man.
Right. Order
It's
it
like
on.
$8, dude. You know, it was like no brainer.
I love it. I love it. I gotta tell you, we were having a really good round with what the Stampede means to all of us. We were hoping to get a good definition from you.
Yeah, it's hard to like bottle something like that up, you know, because there was so much intensity like leading up to it. You know, I'd read the magazines and I'd get
Right.
like super energized, and I don't know. It's a feeling of accomplishment, I guess, for me, because I was able to pull it off. You know, do it multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were really rocking it a few times there. That's for sure.
Yeah, if I wouldn't have hurt my leg, you know.
You're right.
You know what? I kind of wish I had got started sooner.
Right.
You know, I didn't get in until the last 4 years.
Yeah, I think you and me both ran Stampede number 7 as our first year, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yep. No, it was both our first year together. I remember that.
Right, and we didn't know each other. We just met through the Stampede.
No, I remember you.
Yeah,
You know?
I think I left you on the side of the road. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah. That was the lowest point in my life.
Yeah, I flew by
you.
it.
You just drove by and waved at me with your overalls. I
Right?
was like, son of a bitch.
Right. Later, losers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
That's what
That's
I'd
hilarious.
say.
That's hilarious. I love it. I love it. We've also had the great opportunity to hop around the country a few times lately together.
Yep. Sure did. We met up in Arizona, twice last year?
I think it was more like 6 or 8 times, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we met twice in Cornville alone.
Right.
And then Naco or
Right.
Bisbee. Yeah.
Yay for us. It was great. It was like every other weekend we were seeing each other last year.
Dude, it was. There was like like a 2-month period where we weren't even saying bye. We were like, see you next week.
Right.
You know, it was
Right.
like, yeah, in Sturgis.
Well, that is one strange thing about us and all of us. We rarely say goodbye. We just freaking take off. Later, losers.
Yeah, exactly. The Irish goodbye.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, we'll see you online. You know.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
We'll talk.
Call you on the phone.
We used to have a lot more mass text too. I used to be in a lot of threads with Velarde and all those guys in Washington and stuff.
Right. Velarde's in Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of.
Ruidoso.
That is the benefit of racing something like the Stampede. We got friends all over the freaking place.
Yeah, that was the real win. Was
Right.
like we got hooked up with a solid group, and we're all on the same leg together. And we could ride like any of those dudes that did it. Like I would ride anywhere with them because
Oh,
I know
yeah.
they could do it because I've seen them do it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and they're not going to complain, and they're not going to break down that much.
Right.
And they know what it takes to do it. You know, so they're not going to take off with some ball tire or something without having a plan.
Well, our crazy's a little different. You know, I think that's the trick, that our crazy leads us to push a little harder than the next person. And everyone's always welcome to ride their own ride, but it's going to have to be the understanding that if you've raced a Stampede, you might be pushing harder than the next group of people. So it's great to ride places with each other.
Because when I'm going somewhere, I'm going somewhere. Like there's a fire in me. I don't want to like stop and eat normally. Like I always want to go as far as I can with the fuel that I have, you know. And I'm,
Right,
you know,
me too.
take a second at a gas station and, you know, figure out what the next 150 miles is.
Yeah.
So I can just bang that out without stopping, you know, or messing with my tunes or whatever I got to do to set it up where,
Right.
you know, I won't have to stop for 150 miles.
Well, I did enjoy the last time we took that little hop up. Where were we? I think we were just south of Denver, and we were hopping up to Sturgis for that big rally, and we would like stop for like 10 or 15 minutes every time.
Yeah,
we stopped
we even
for-
took a couple pictures.
We even stopped and took. Oh, that's right. You were pulling over in
That's
front
something
of
new we're kind of getting into. How we're like, well, we better snap some for the grams.
Right. And we got the camera phones now, so we can do it pretty easily.
Yeah.
That's freaking sweet. Although I was thinking too, our great topic for today would be camping on a motorcycle. There's a lot of people who don't do it, but I think you and I have kind of honed the skill. So let's hear.
Yeah, it is. I've gone through like different phases with my gear.
Mhm.
You know, in the beginning, I was like going as small as I could with backpacking gear, and then there wasn't enough stuff to lean up on. And then I've lost like a couple $200 tents too. And then I was in these backpacking tents, and they were so tiny.
Right.
You know, like, and then I figured out it's like I could carry a 2-man tent, and it weighs like not even a pound more.
Right.
And then I have the room to move around in there, and
Put your shit in there.
so I'm rocking like a 2-man tent now.
Really? It looks more like a 6-person tent. Your tent's kind of
Yeah,
huge.
it's pretty big, huh?
That'll-
It's like a 8x8 or something like that. It might be considered a 4-man.
Right. I think
Like-
it's considered a 4. It's freaking huge.
Yeah.
But it still
I
packs
like
up.
when it rolls up, it's literally not that much bigger than the 1-man like bivvy type tents I was using.
Right.
So for me, it's like, and two, you know, I've got like if somebody else didn't have a tent and we had to, like somebody else would double up in there with me if they had to.
You've had a few
You know, so it's
Stampeders
nice
double
to-
up with you? That sounds kind of perverted.
That's what you had in Sturgis. You know, it was cool. I was like into the concept of it popping up, but it didn't look very spacious.
What's that? Oh, the tent that I had, the pop-up
Mm-hmm.
tent? No, it wasn't spacious at all. It was horrific. It was
I liked
horrifically
how
small.
it's set up. You know, like
Oh,
I
right.
was into the idea, like the technology of it.
Right. They
but-
just didn't make it tall enough. I mean, I'm 6'2", so I'm not going to fit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fit at all. No, and you said you've lost a few $200 tents. How'd you lose them?
Well,
Let's hear.
There's a rumor that I lose stuff all the time. Like it's like something that people tease me about, but
Yeah.
I've gotten better at tying down my loads. I haven't lost anything.
Well,
I lose gloves and water bottles a lot, but not like I haven't lost any camping gear.
lately.
in a couple of years. But
well, I think I do remember the last Stampede. We were walking through the Walmart, and you really stunk, and everybody was making room because you had lost your backpack with your clothes in it.
The Velarde said I was like leaving in breadcrumbs. He's like, I saw pieces of your shit from one side of this country to the other.
To the other, right?
Fellow
Stampede.
He's like,
Velarde.
I would see some other side of the road. He's like, oh, Jared's ahead of me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
And I pack light. Like, that's kind of my strategy. It's like, I'm going to pass 1,000 Walmarts, before I get where I'm going. Like, if I need a 6-pack of teas, let's go in there and get them, But, yeah, it's funny. When we went to Walmart that time, I bought socks and underwear and everything.
Yeah, you were all
bent.
bent.
I was out at Velarde, when he's on the road, he just throws his socks away.
Yeah, that's a good
He'll buy
idea.
a 8-pack of socks and just throw them away every day.
Well, that's a good idea. Go through them. That's pretty good. I tend to just wear things for a few days and maybe throw some baby
socks
powder.
and underwear. I basically I don't want to get funky.
That's funny because I remember telling you, you were like, man, these chonies are freaking expensive. And I'm like, well, just go without. And you're like, no, I can't do that. I'm buying them. It was like a 6-pack for like $30. You're like, what the heck? They're just underwear.
But I was going to like something like Temperature Tech or something like that. It's like,
right.
like Hydro Wick or some crap like that. Like basically like a synthetic silk of some kind.
That's hilarious. You're wearing silk chonies all over this country. God bless you for it, I reckon. Yeah, I think the tent thing is absolutely correct. I've learned too. I have some smaller tents, and they do okay, but I got a 6-person tent I've been using lately and a teepee tent, and it does pack down to nothing. And sometimes the poles can get a little long and a little wide, but I've learned to just pack them up with the sissy bar instead of packing them sideways, and that works real well for me. That way, remember last time we were over in Cornville and it rained for like 2 days solid. And it was nice to have the big tent to put everything in so everything was dry. Unfortunately, my tent leaked and I had to find a dryer locally in the neighborhood. Oh, it sucked all the high hell. I had to do like 4 loads to get dry.
You know that rig that you have that I liked was that one where you had the air mattress rolled up in the tent and you basically just like plugged your tent in and then it was like the whole thing was done in like a minute.
Oh, that's perfect.
Like, you're like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah,
you slept inside of a building in a tent on an air mattress.
Oh, that's right, down at Naco's, yeah.
Yeah,
Southern
Arizona. That was a
Arizona.
couple years ago, but I remember being impressed with that rig. I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, if you can roll it all up into one big roll, and that's a 3-man tent. And that particular tent, dude, I've used like 20 times. If it's just me, well, my pops and I used it too together. Heading up to Sturgis or Yosemite or Bonneville, like that poor tent's gotten the piss beat out of it. I've had to wring the oil out of it from losing oil on a scoot.
Dude, that just made waterproofing.
Yeah, right. Better waterproofing. I've taken it to Texas a few times. That poor tent, I got it sitting over here in the kitchen right now. It's all rolled up and ready for the next adventure. But I've been enjoying the bigger tents the last several months of camping. I think it can be done. I know a lot of people too, they like to bring like food items camping, and personally I just make sure I got an extra stick of beef jerky and some trail mix, but I don't even worry about the coffee. Like everywhere we go, there's convenience stores selling coffee or food or
sometimes I'll buy a Red Bull the night before, you know what I mean? And then when I get up I can just crack one.
Yeah, that's
right
true.
away.
We're pretty lucky too. It seems that a lot of places we go, everyone's got a bit of extra water. I know Velarde's always buying water by the gallon, so anytime I need water, I just ask him. He's got it. And I'm buying water. I'm buying those 2 for $2 waters on the road. So,
what I found the nice thing about the gallon is the water seems to stay cooler longer. Like a little bottle, it'll get hot in like 30 minutes or something like that. But a water bottle, like a gallon, will stay cool for a couple hours.
Yeah, but have you ever tried to drink a gallon out of a gallon jug while doing 80 down the highway on a chop? No shocks, freaking jumping all over the place.
For a long time, I carried a Camelback.
Oh, how was that?
And I would even pinch it in the bite valve in my helmet and let it dribble water in my face and stuff. And I did, because the first year of the Stampede, when we crossed the desert, we were spending like an equivalent amount on water as we were on fuel.
Sure.
Every time we stopped, we'd buy $2 bottles of water and pound those.
Yeah.
And we were running like lower capacity at the time because we were stopping more. But anyways, that's when I got the Camelback, and I just got tired of the hose getting flopped around everywhere. So I ended up just going back to buying water bottles in the store.
Well, I've got all that netting I put up in the front of my scoot on top of the spare fuel cell that I run in front, and so.
Have you ever put ice up there?
I mean, I have to get from A to B, but not in general.
Because everybody's always saying that, like you tie ice, on your handlebars and let it melt onto you as you're crossing the desert. But
man, I've never done that. That's a good idea. I will throw the
no,
water.
it's like everybody
on
talks about it, but I don't know if anybody's ever.
Man,
I'm
I've
sure
never
it
done
works.
that.
You know what I mean? Like I'm sure it's, at some level it's.
Yeah, it's doable. Well, I was born and raised out here in the California desert, so it's not a big deal for me to. I mean, I'm used to it. I know what it means to run through it. I can run through it semi-successfully. Although I'll stop every hour, and pound another gallon of water. Well, I'll probably drink half the gallon of water, and then pour the other half a gallon.
No, it's funny. You'll drink like a gallon of water and then not piss.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's the weirdest thing, but it has to be done. Coming back from Sturgis, I came back on one day on the 10. And because I stopped in Cornville there on my way back from Sturgis. And yeah, it was like 118 degrees at one point. It's going through Edinburgh and Blythe there and whatnot. I mean, it was just hellacious. And there was hours of it.
Sounds about normal.
Yeah, I mean, I could have waited till nighttime when it was only 98 degrees.
Dude, I waited till nighttime before and it was like fucking 90.
Right.
So I was like, this is only slightly better.
Just slightly. Just slightly. Yeah, you'll yeah. It's always
I love how there's like call boxes every mile. I've thought about it. It's like if you broke down in the wrong place, you could walk up to a half a mile to get, and some of those were broken too. So
well, that's California for you. It's a California thing. Yeah. Well,
the first time I went to Born Free, the first year.
Yeah.
And I was not prepared for. We went through there like the way it worked out timeline. Like we crossed the desert at like 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, you're gonna die.
Yeah, luckily we were on jet bikes, dude. Like if we'd have been on shovels or something, you know what I mean? They'd have just fucking melted.
Yeah, they would not have been happy. No.
Like I was on KZ at the time, and it didn't miss a beat. Nice.
KZ 1000 or 750?
No, it was 650.
Oh yeah, the 650.
Yeah, that was the first incarnation of that 650. But that was a really dynamite motor for me. That's what really turned me on to the KZs. I'd been CB, since I was like 19 or something,
right.
Until I got that KZ 650. And it was 100 cc smaller, but still, like, noticeably faster.
Oh, they haul ass. Yeah, I still have one in the backyard.
And they run in the rain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, once I got into KZ, I was like, what was I doing? Messing with those CBs, dude.
That's great. And let's talk about your family history. Your dad's an old chopper guy.
Oh yeah. No, I grew up doing it. My dad always had a shop when I was a kid.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my dad was like hardtailing anything he could touch.
Right.
Like there wasn't a shop in my region. When I was a kid, my dad was the man of like Southwest Colorado. Like if you had
that
a Harley,
one guy,
like you knew my dad.
That's bitchin'.
And it's pretty cool. We're about to go up to the swap meet in 2 weeks. And we always like get my dad a wheelchair, and we push him out in a wheelchair. And we usually get really good deals on parts because we're kind of like chisel people. And then I just use my dad as a shopping cart.
That's great.
I just put everything in his lap and push him around.
That's hilarious. That's the one up in Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you. Yeah. No, I used to take my pops places, and my pops would be like, "Yeah, I'll join you." It'd be like me and F-Bomb heading up the David Mann show or something, and my dad was like, "Oh, I'll cruise with," and I thought, well, that's cool, bring the dad along. And dude, every freaking fourth, fifth booth, someone there would know my dad. I was like, what the heck? Like my dad was just that guy.
The same thing. He'd just been in the game since basically day one.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like he was there when choppers were like, really kicking off.
Right. They were taboo. Only dirty people rode them. You always got
when I was a kid, that's what it was. It was like the cops and the outlaws. That's the only people that had Harleys.
Mm-hmm. These days, even straight normal people like us have Harleys. I heard from your brother today. How's he doing? Oh, he was showing me an Instagram post that was at I think it was a Backshed special. Backshed. What are they called? What's that?
Yeah, Backstreet or Back. We know who we're talking.
Right.
I love those guys, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, they had taken a picture of your brother's chop down at EDR, down at the El Diablo
Oh,
run.
that was the old bike barn.
Oh, the old bike barn. Thank you.
Old bike barn, yeah.
That's who I was thinking
Yeah,
of.
that was cool. You know what I mean? Like, that they would repost it like that. They have a lot of views. And I used to buy a ton of stuff from old bike barn back in the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I haven't lately, but yeah, if you needed like a weird carburetor thing for some Jap bike, those guys got it. You know what I mean? Like, they have a ton of vintage Japanese stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to keep the old stuff running, but luckily these days with eBay and everything in between, it's a pretty good open market. We're pretty fortunate. Although I suspect people like you and I we've gotten real handy at rebuilding shit wherever we are.
Yeah, and I got a ton of parts bikes, so a lot of time I can just dip into my stash a little bit, you know, but like needles, like float needles and seats, you know what I mean? I got to buy those. You know, I've been getting pretty lucky past year or so. I haven't had too many cars, but I've had years where it's like, dude, especially with the double over CB750s, they had you couldn't change the needle seat, and they always leaked. And it was like I messed with them because it was Honda's first generation CB.
Right.
And like I mess with them all the time, and it never seemed to get better. You know,
right. Well, good on you.
These are better carburetors too. That's like,
yeah, they really are. They're pretty KISS. There's just a few things you can move around in them. So I usually just thin out the main jets and back the needle up one little spacer and good to go.
Yeah. If you mess with the intake, which like it's crazy. The stock airbox is ugly, but it's like it's kind of the best. You know what I mean? Like there's a performance increase to the pods, but it's not much.
Right.
Usually you hurt your efficiency more than, but you got to do it. You know what I mean? You can't run the stock airbox. You know what I mean? Like
no,
but I've been drilling out my main jets. I got drill that kit. Mostly been like raising the needle a little bit, like.
Well, when you raise the needle,
when
you raise the needle at full throttle, oh man, we could go on and on about the stoichiometry when it comes to carburetors for days. That's for sure. But we don't want to scare too many people on this podcast.
I'm not that super nerdy on it. I just get it where it works, where I can stand it, and then where it's all right, and then run it. You know.
Well, you got to test it out. As long as you can test it out, I've done it a few times. I know what works for me.
That would be the one nice thing about Harleys is there's only one carburetor.
Amen. Yeah, I mean there's a few different models, but yeah, they're all the same. You can go McCuney, you can go S&S, but
yeah, I got an S&S on mine.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Charlie hates S&S. He rails on them, and I'm like, well, I put mine on. It was already jetted to my elevation, and that's all I ever did to it. You know, like I put it on, and that was it.
That's funny. Yeah, Charlie, the one of the main instigators of the Stampede, freaking Nomad Charlie, one of our favorite friends. We'll have to get him on the podcast sometime soon. That'd be cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, Jared, thanks for the 411, amigo. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks for calling me, man.
Yeah,
awesome.
We'll talk to you soon. See ya.
All right.
Later. Yeah, always good to hear from Jared. I'm just a big fan of his. I know we're competitors in the little race we like to call the Stampede, but we sure do have a lot of fun traveling all over the country lately, and it's always nice to share a few stories. We tend to talk on the phone probably once or twice a month, and it's usually quite complicated stoichiometry questions, engine questions, motorcycle building, welding on questions. Yes. We have a good time.
Speaking of, I mean, Jared seemed like a cool guy, but I did have a couple of questions since I wasn't able to interrupt. You were on the phone and everything.
Shoot, amigo.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of weird if just some random guy in the back, in the back of the room, you just hear this echoey voice on the phone. Jared's like, "Who's that guy yelling over there?"
Right.
Anyways, so I know what a car carburetor is, but what is the difference between a motorcycle carburetor and a car carburetor?
Well, there's no difference. I mean, they do the same. They provide atomization for the engine, i.e. gasoline and air, somewhere around preferably 14.7 parts air to 1 part gasoline. But that's a whole other story. But no, they do exactly the same. A lot of times on motorcycles, there could be multiple carburetors, like one carburetor per cylinder. But no, same difference. They rock it. Thanks for asking. Good question. Yeah, we'll get real complicated if you let us.
Well, here in carburetor on a motorcycle, I just wanted to be like, well, why don't they call it a motorator? It's not a carburetor. Why isn't it a
Nice.
motorator? Anyways, so another question I had, you mentioned motorcycle camping. Now, when you say motorcycle camping, I imagine like somebody with a backpacking kind of, setup trying to ride a motorcycle, this big like 50-liter bag on their back, or even like the hobo camping where they got the rod with, the little handkerchief
Nice.
with like
Hanging
some
on the
clothes
back.
on it. Like how exactly do you do motorcycle camping?
Well, it's pretty easy. We show up to a lot of these events and they offer free camping. And I've noticed a lot of people show up in their cars and maybe they trailer a motorcycle and stuff. But it's no big deal for us to throw a tent on the back. I know some of us use similar things, backpacking, hiking type camping. But as we were talking about, it's real easy to have a 4 or 6 person tent versus a smaller 2 person tent. That way, when it rains, we got somewhere to put all our stuff.
Do you bring like a small camp cooker, like one of those little butane things, or do you
Oh
just
no,
like
yeah,
do already prepared meals?
no, I do have some small cookers, and I have done that. But 9 times out of 10, you're near somewhere that serves coffee, serves food. As long as you keep a little convenience store, trail mix or beef jerky with you, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna go somewhere that has food, and I only need to eat once or twice a day, anyways. I mean, look at me. I can live for 2 weeks off of this mess, but I have a good time just kind of winging it. You just kind of wing it and have a good time. I know a lot of people worry about food and what they're going to eat, but we don't. We'll all jump on our scoots and go find somewhere to eat and
Well,
find some coffee to drink, whatever.
you got to avoid the tourist traps, though. I remember
Oh,
driving through
yeah.
Cambria, and you stop there because it's the only place like 2 hours in each direction, and you got
Mm.
to pay an arm and a leg just to sit down for dinner.
Yeah, we'd probably jump on our motorcycles and ride another 3 hours and then eat then, or hit up a convenience store. And
Hit up a convenience store. What if you hit a deer or like some roadkill? Do you just cook that
that
up?
would be yummy.
Yeah.
We have friends who have hit deers on motorcycles, and I think food's the last thing on your mind after you hit a deer. Jer mentioned our buddy Velarde's scoot that he cruises around on. We call the Deer Slayer. He's hit 2 deer with that scoot, and a car, and a tree that we know
Dude,
of. Yeah, it's
I would
pretty.
put the antlers on the front of my bike if I was a deer slayer.
Yeah,
Kind of like the bull horns on the front of the Cadillac in Dukes of
right.
Hazzard.
Right. Yeah, no, he's able to walk away from him. I think one time he really hurt his leg, but that's his story to tell. I'll let him tell it sometime.
Yeah. Well, you know what? As we mentioned before, this ride 1K in a day. You want to tell us
Ride
a
1K
little bit
in
about
a
that?
day.
1K a day, right?
Yeah,
1K.
no, I'm really excited. The gentleman who puts it on, his name's Curtis Morgan. I'm a big fan of his and what he does. Just another good outlet for racing, and it's pretty simple. It's challenging yourself to lay down 1,000 miles in one day, which is actually quite a lot, depending on where you live topographically. If you're going uphill, downhill, mountainside, if you're in the middle of Minnesota and there's a small town every 30 miles on the 220, it can add up real quick. So it's real nice to lay down 1,000 miles in a day, and he does it that every year there's new patches that you get, and most people do it every year. How can I do 1,000 miles a day every year? But some people just do it once, which is awesome. I'll get a little personal and tell you the story that a few weeks before my pops passed a while back, I had mentioned it to my dad, like, hey, Dad, this guy puts this on and you can ride 1,000 miles in a day and you get a certificate and the patch and everything else. But it really is about the self-challenge of it, the same reason us crazy people would race something like the Stampede. And my pop's reaction to it was, that sounds tangible. Because I was always happy to tell my dad, hey, let's throw together a freaking chop for you and you can race the Stampede. And he's like, fuck that. You guys are crazy. I'm not riding that. I'm not doing that. But I'll, see you off at the starting line. And so my dad was always there for the starts and whatnot. But I mentioned this to him. It sounded real tangible. And that's the benefit of this Ride 1K in a day. It really is tangible for everybody, even my pops. And unfortunately, my pops passed away before he could ever do that. And so a year after my pops passed away, I gathered up his ashes that were in a box, and I put them in a bag, and I put them in his saddlebag on the back of his big old man Honda, and did 1,000 miles in a day. And Curtis Morgan, who puts on the Ride 1K in a day, was happy to give the certificate to my pops because he cruised it in his saddlebag. And I took him up to I took my dad up to our family plot up there in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and buried him in his saddlebag. So if you ever see his Honda out on the road with me astride it, you'll notice there's only one saddlebag on the poor machine. So I'm a big fan of Ride 1K in a day, and I've got a lot of friends who do that. And some people, they might only do 100 miles in a day now, and then they work themselves up to 300 miles and then 500 miles. And if you can do 500 miles in a day, doing 1,000 miles in a day is not that much farther of a stretch.
So it's kind of like a motorcycle marathon. You get certified, you get the bragging rights, you get the patches, and you're in a really cool small club, I guess you would say.
Yeah, there's most definitely bitches and glory in it for most people.
Bitches and glory and clubs. You know what? That just gave me a really good business idea.
Do share.
Okay, so this Ride 1K in a day made me start thinking about, the Mile High Club. What if we came up with a business where we certify people who are in the Mile High Club and we just make money off of people who are getting laid in the sky? It sounds like an easy thing to do, and
This
we
is
get money
some adult
for it.
content. Well, and that's the funny part. Curtis doesn't charge anything for this.
Oh,
Yeah, this is terribly free. I know at the end of it all, you're welcome to give him a donation, and he gives you the account to do that in, which is always great. But at the end of the day, it's about challenging yourself to ride 1,000 miles in a day. So I'm real excited to put out what he's doing and the awesomeness he's doing, similar to what we're doing. It's all free. He does have shirts and hats, and I know soon he's building an app he was telling me about, so it's just going to be on the app.
oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, the app will be on your phone. You can follow. I'm not exactly sure how it all works, but I'm really excited.
I imagine it's going to be like a map where you can see where you've been. And in that case, you're going to have a lot of people doing these 1,000-mile penis symbols on their map.
Wow. I never would have thought of that.
Oh, people in San Francisco do it all the time on their bikes.
Luckily, we're in Southern California.
Where we don't
not
do that
the
shit.
city.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So, Ride 1K in a day.
Ride 1K in a day. I love it. You're cracking me up, Brian.
If you hear anything about somebody certifying you in the Mile High Club and you're paying for it, that is prostitution. So avoid it. We've learned that today.
Avoid it greatly.
Yeah, don't want to do that.
But
Sky marshals will come after you.
we're excited. Curtis is excited about what we're doing, and with the book and the podcast, and I'm pretty excited about what he's doing. So he's going to be doing his monthly raffle as well, that he normally does, and in his monthly raffle where he gives away all sorts of gift certificates and other exciting things, that's going to also be including a signed copy of the book American Roadrunner. So
Cool.
happy to be on board.
Well, speaking of, again, this is the American Roadrunner podcast. Make sure you pick up the book American Roadrunner by Bob Marshall. You can also email us at AmericanRoadrunnerTheBook@gmail.com. Again, that's American Roadrunner the Book, all one word. Also, Instagram, American Roadrunner, and Facebook. You can find us at American Roadrunner the Book. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. We love to hear your support. We love to hear your thoughts, and we'd love
Amen.
to get more listeners if you'd be willing to pass us along.
Well, and also more writers. You know, we are all about sharing stories. So anyone or their mother is happy to share a written story, and I'm happy to edit it and put it up on the website.
Heck yeah.
And it goes right up there with the open mic bike night that we have the last Thursday of every month at the Hideaway here in downtown Riverside. It's 7 to 9. Cruise on out and share a story. Enjoy other people sharing stories on the road. Usually it's just women who ride that show up, but we still have a really good time. So I'm always excited to host that event. We've been doing that 6 or 7 months now, open mic bike night, but you'll find it on social media.
I think the coolest thing anybody could do after listening to this podcast is to do the Ride 1K in a day from somewhere like
Amen.
Kansas, come to the open mic bike
Now
night,
you're
tell their
talking.
story, and then we publish it on the website.
Yeah, I got a good friend in Kansas, actually. Her name's Judy Kleinsmith. I'm going to have to talk her into that. That'd
Please
be a good
do.
one.
Yeah.
I talked to her today. Our intro music. Just a quick story about it. In case you haven't heard, intro music is by the band Mech, including players Ty Zamora on vocals, bass, keys, and guitar, Joe Hill on guitar, and Dan Hill on drums. Ty Zamora and I go way back. We went to high school together, sang in high school choirs together, and we've gotten to have a good time solving life's problems throughout the years. He is a rock and roll star in my eyes, which was cool as a kid. We all wanted to be rock stars, and God damn it, Ty went off and did it. So we're all pretty proud of him. He bass player for the band Alien Ant Farm, one of the founding members of that. And lately he's been rocking all sorts of cool stuff. So it's great to have Ty Zamora's music on the podcast because I'm a big fan of his and all he does. And Joe and Dan Hill are local Riversideers here. I've gotten to meet a few times. They're really good people. So when I was a kid, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure showed me that it's okay to have futuristic music. And then as the future came, I realized there was no futuristic music. But then the band Mech came out with their album Red Sprite Lightning. Enjoy their music, my fellows.
You know what? If I can just mention real quick, looking at the band name on the CD, it is spelled M-E-K, but it's got a line above the E, so it might be pronounced Meek. We might have to follow up with him and
Holy
find
heck.
out.
I've never put the two together.
Yeah, it could be Mech or Meek. Not sure, so we're going to say both
It's probably
right now.
Meek.
Yeah.
Regardless, I love playing the stuff.
Meek or Mech.
I'll give him a call. Red Sprite Lightning is the album. The song is the first in the album. It's entitled Here We Are. Enjoy.
Enjoy, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.